It always hits me, made in Germany. All of this engraving, I mean, my goodness, it's like a museum back here. So really, if you think about the unique piece of the brand, it's got to be this. The more controversy, the better. If there's one person on earth that should have this, it's got to be Mr. Wonderful.
Hi everyone, Teddy here, back with Kevin. Kevin, good to see you.
Great to be here, Teddy.
So we're here at Lange Söhne, and this is a brand that we've looked at in the past.
Yes, we have.
But I wanted to come back here and look at essentially almost every pillar of the collection. We have some newness also in front of us, but also now a lot of things have changed since we've last looked at the brand because with you and your own personal collecting journey with Lange. So what I wanted to do with this video, go through some of the collection, but also have a discussion with you as well as some owner of these pieces.
I think that one thing I would say as a collector, what attracted me originally was I'm always looking for dial. I'm a dial guy. I want something completely different, so I'm going to jump right in the middle of the collection. There's nothing on earth like this.
Yeah. Zeitwerk, yes.
And obviously they were kind enough to make a red band for me, so I have worn this on television multiple times, and it always is a conversation starter. Basically, people look at it and say, "What the hell is that? How do you tell time on it? Is that a digital watch?" This is digital in the sense that you're reading numbers.
It's a digital display, yeah, sure.
Can you imagine the complexity of the movement to actually do a digital display out of mechanical movement? I mean, this is a serious piece.
And just the amount of energy and torque that's required, but that's all powering that jump of those minutes and hours for this. It's an incredible watch. This
piece is definitely, for collectors, an acquired taste. But when you get to a point like I am, I'm looking for something completely different. That's what I want. And certainly, it's a collectible in the sense that this brand is well known, but that piece is unique amongst all the others they make. And I tell people, if you're going to start there because it's so crazy.
But some of us have budgets. So let's go through the hierarchy of the brand. So just for some context as well, just for Lange, it's a brand with two distinct parts of history. You have Ferdinand Adolf Lange started the brand in 1845. After the middle of the 20th century, the brand, of course, during the time in Germany, of course, a lot of things are changing. And
that is an issue right there. For certain watch snobs, it's not Swiss, it's German. You realize that's an issue.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
I think these are some of the most beautiful watches being made in the world.
And some of the most complex movements, so they deserve the right to be collected. That's the way I look at it.
1990 rolls around. Walter Lange, who is the great-grandson of Ferdinand Adolf Lange, gets with Günter Blümlein, and they're talking about, okay, how can we reimagine the family's history of producing watches and becoming a fixture within Glashütte? They launched 4 watches. 2 of them, the family we have in front of us, starting with the Saxonia. Now the Saxonia just really represents that entry-level position for the brand.
Very clean, textured, beautiful. Classic dress watch, no question about it. And the price, Teddy?
So you're looking right around $26,000. Now, the one thing I like about as you ascend...
that's not inexpensive.
No, but we're talking about a brand that is making some of the most beautiful watches in the world, so it's all relative to where they're positioned.
I like it, it's clean.
The other thing I like about Lange, and one of their defining characteristics, of course, is their hand engraving that they have on their balance cocks.
Yes.
So this, even on this, for them, more entry-level piece, you're still getting a taste of almost that bespoke, handmade type of finish. And how the story goes, they have a very small set of people that are capable of doing it.
This is a steel piece.
This is white gold.
That's white gold.
Yes.
Okay, so for entry level, white gold is pretty special, let's face it. I mean, if you're going entry, usually you end up with steel, but white gold is cool.
Then you send up. So one thing that Lange also does incredibly well is how can you fuse complications within the design itself. This is their Saxonia moon phase. So this is going to jump up an additional $10,000 for going for this watch.
So now we're talking just under 40,000.
Yes, and more in that mid-30s range. Right. This extends it. You also add the big date, which is a really defining characteristic. So we
see that theme again later in even more expensive pieces.
You see it throughout. Now this is...
And remember, that takes more energy to move.
Absolutely. And the other thing with this is this pulls from the Dresden Opera House. So right above the stage.
Everybody knows that story.
There's
the clock.
And apparently the person that produced that was also in connection with Ferdinand Adolf Lange, and they were like mentors, and it was kind of this connection, and that's a huge aspect to the design of these pieces. I look at Lange
I like that, because there's a story there. When
yes.
people stop you and say, what is that piece? You can start talking about the opera house and everything else. Mm-hmm. Nice. Let me see the piece before we go on.
Please.
Just so I can make
it's all centered, symmetrical. You're coming right down the middle with the big date.
Yeah, beautiful blue. Very, very nice. It always hits me. Made in Germany, not made in Switzerland. I mean, that's different, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Big, big, big numbers. You know, for people who are readers, this is very easy to work with.
That's true as well. I still have these young eyes, so I still have these young eyes. I can count the days, but taking advantage of it now. This, to me, is where I personally would start with the brand. This is the Lange 1. The Lange 1 is the perfect dress watch from a German watchmaking perspective, in my eyes.
Yeah.
Without question. So when this was unveiled, 1994.
Classic gold.
Classic gold here. 38.5 millimeter case. What I think is so remarkable about this piece is, one, shows this idea of asymmetry, but doing it with a way where everything still feels balanced. Everything equally opposes one another. You have the 12-hour here that's going to reciprocate what's going to be on the right side with the power reserve and the sub-seconds. Even the text with the Doppelfederhaus talking about the double mainsprings in here. Reverse text on there. It's just so cohesive in its design. And it's 38.5 millimeters. Think about all of that.
It actually looks larger, to be honest with you. But
and to be able to fit all of that on a dial that size.
It's clean. It's really, really clean. You're right. I agree with you. There's a total balance to what could be chaos. I mean, it's the reserve is right there, but functional, obviously. Huge numbers on the date and very delicate second hand. It's fantastic. Again, with this textured white, you know, that's very nice. Very nice.
You have the traditional 3/4 plate on the back side, so it does leave a
price point, Teddy?
This is right at $40,000. Still getting the hand-engraved balance cock here. Also, bridge here for the escapement pivot. I mean, it's beautiful. It's more muted compared to some of the other movements we're going to look at, but this is classic German watchmaking.
Yeah. So that's where you like to start, right there.
Because when I think of Lange, I mean, there's many different designs that I think of, but when I think of the cornerstone of the brand and just what is that emblematic type of symbol for them,
right,
I think of this dial. That's just what comes to mind. You also have two different options within here that we'll also look at. So you have the time zone. So this is bringing this out to right shy of 42 millimeters.
Complications on there.
So yes, this is a world timer. You're also getting dual time function here with an additional 12 hours. You have your big date here, power reserve indicator. But you can kind of see how we talked about this idea where things are able to be stacked with the complications, and it doesn't break up the cohesiveness of the design identity of the original.
Classic world timer. Cities on the, like you said, the bezel. Very nice. Little accents of blue there. Gorgeous texture on the dial. Beautiful complications. All of this engraving, I mean, my goodness, it's like a museum back here.
You also have an additional bridge for the time zone mechanism on the back with a hand engraving.
White gold?
This is white gold.
Yeah.
Next, you have Grand Lange.
This starts getting interesting.
I mean, this is beautiful. This is going to expand from the 38.5 millimeters. This gets it right in that 41 millimeter range.
But
so
also a beautiful dress piece. That's gorgeous. You know, these dials are really, you know, I'm a dial guy. This is beautiful stuff.
So this is an updated version, and we were looking at this beforehand, but it has this very fine textured finish to that dial surface. It's like this gray.
To appreciate it, you really need the lube, but when you see it, how perfect it is, it's really something else. Concentric circles. Oh my goodness, that's gorgeous.
Movement, more of the same.
So I would say right now, as you're going down the hit parade here, in terms of dress watches, this for me is number one so far.
It's a 41.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally love the 38.5, but
I get it. Price point on this?
That's going to be right around 50.
Okay, now we're getting up into the stratosphere of pricing. You know,
Let's jump up. So we talked about the different pillars of Lange.
Yeah.
Another pillar. Now this technically falls underneath the Saxonia collection, but
it's a chronograph.
It's a chronograph. It's the Datograph. 1999. This was a period of time in watchmaking. We talk about the Swiss versus the Germans.
Yeah.
This is where the Germans absolutely just took the industry by storm. And this is where I think everybody woke up to, wow, this was 1994. It was the announcement that this brand has arrived. This was the proclamation that we belong and everybody should look out. So this is the Datograph.
It's certainly the Lange version of a chronograph.
So this is also the up-down. So this was released as a successor to that original 39 millimeter case version in 1999.
And this is the first dial I've seen of this ilk, of anything. I mean, there's a lot going on here. This black with flicks in it is quite interesting. As I like to say, lots of complications. Beautiful, made in Germany again. Beautiful, my goodness, what a complication.
So for this one, now, defining characteristics. So this is now 41 millimeters, so they expanded it out with this new successor. Power reserve indicator.
Yeah, I see that. Very nice.
but this is the magic.
No, I mean,
L951 movement. This is the movement.
looking at that is absolutely spectacular. I mean, that is just spectacular.
Everything is on full display. And this is the beauty of looking at a manual mount caliber.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You have, see the reset lever, you can see column wheel. It's all there on perfect display. This is like just a master class in just understanding a watch movement as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, I mean, the dial on this thing, you know I'm a dial guy, everybody knows that. If you're looking at an unbelievably unique chrono, this is it, because these numbers, classic Lange, are huge in the date, but somehow work really well with what's going on here. A lot of color and tonality, fantastic texture. Wow.
So that's the Datograph.
Yeah.
They also have additional chronographs. So this is the 1815 collection, which also very beautiful.
I would give this more towards the sports vibe, you know?
It's a chronograph, sure.
Yeah, but this is also chrono with more of a dress vibe to it.
Yeah, the 1815, I mean, that's paying honor to the original year that their founder was born. Right. So it's more leaning into that heritage.
But if you want a piece that's going to be sporty, t-shirt, jeans, and you want to put on a tux, I'd kind of move to this.
It's cheaper as well.
Yeah, and price point?
That's in the 60s, that one.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of moving up here a bit.
Well, the Datograph is going to be close to double that.
Yeah. Now we're visiting my hometown right here.
So you decided to acquire this piece.
Yes.
What was it that drew you to the Zeitwerk? You know, why did it stand out?
I did not have any Lange in my collection, number one. And I've said this countless times. The reason I don't need another watch. I've already got a lot of watches. But if I'm going to bring another piece into the story of my collection, it's got to have some uniqueness to it. What's different about it? What makes it stand out, and what is the story? Because I've always said dials should tell stories, and of course, in my case, I'm looking for watches that I can wear on television, and that have to be different. I don't want them to all be the same, which means I have to work with the maker, with the maison, to get a red band, because I need continuity. Everybody knows that story now. And they were willing to do that for me on my version of that piece. And it was a monster hit on Shark Tank. And you can tell by just the comments on social, you know, people, what the beep is that? You know, because they're not expecting digital anymore, anywhere. And that is a digital watch. It's a mechanical watch. But it's a big piece. It really showcases well, and it looks spectacular with a red band, I must say. And it's one of my favorite to have fun with. When I take it out, everybody stops and says, what's the story? Like, what is that? So really, if you think about the unique piece of the brand, it's got to be this. It has to be. That has to be the anchor story of Lange.
You could argue.
What else could be?
I mean, I would think of the Lange 1. I mean, but this
It's gorgeous, but there's nothing else in the world like this.
That's true.
Well,
I don't think
that's
there's anything
the
else in the
story.
world like that either.
Well, I know, but if you're really looking for something unique, show me one other brand that does that.
I'll give you that as well. I think both of them can have their time under the sun.
But I think this will be a perpetual classic within this maison for sure.
Even when it was released in 2009, the Zeitwerk collection, I mean, it's received that type of acclaim and praise immediately. I mean, so
Well,
this has already been...
But I'll say something amongst collectors, because I talk to a lot of them all the time, and we talk about this piece. It's controversial. It really is. It's not a slam dunk for every collector. Some people do not like that look. They just don't like it. They think it's too big or whatever. I think the more controversy, the better. That's what I like. I love it when collectors are fighting and talking about it. It's sort of like, think about this. I remember some television producer said to me once, people hated my movie, but they kept talking about it. And that's all I care about. And I thought, that's genius. You know, you spend more time talking about what you don't like than what you do like. Well, that's kind of how I feel about this piece. It's got such a personality, and it's proud to be what it is. I like it.
And I love how every single part of telling the time, you have the digital, you have the hours, and just, you know, you just switch. I mean, look at seeing how that shit, I mean, setting that is amazing.
Setting it up in the morning after you've shaved is a lot of fun. Because I don't put these things on winders. I just don't like doing that to a watch. So I like to spend my time in the morning getting it set up, wearing it, you know, knowing that I've set it up at the right time, right date, wherever I am. But I'll tell you, when you're setting it, you start to realize how much energy that must take for this timepiece to move these giant circles of numbers inside this case.
So this is a 72-hour power reserve, and what they do also, so this has a remontoire in it. Another brand that we know, FP
Yes.
Journe does that quite frequently.
Yes, correct.
But that's going to help with maintaining the amplitude to that balance, because when you have this torqued up balance spring, the release of the energy, if you're trying to have it be dispersed and all the energy is coming from one source, that could throw off the energy that's being also sent to the balance, and you have these tiny little oscillations that are happening.
Which I think is so interesting, because when I show this piece to people and they say, what is it? And we start talking about the story of the dial, I say to them, look, the dial's one thing, but can you imagine how complicated it is to make this piece? You have to be quasi-crazy to even try. There's so much going on here with these giant movements happening all over the place. I mean, that's really what the issue is.
And they take it a step further. You have the striking time, and then you have what we looked at in the past, which was their decimal repeater of the Zeitwerk, which also incredible.
And price point on that?
You're talking about $500,000, so.
I rest my case, Your Honor. So if these start to get really collectible in terms of price, these are capital investments.
So.
All right, now this is crazy, right? Let's talk about what happened when this watch got launched.
So let's talk about the Odysseus collection. Launched in 2019.
Right.
First steel sports watch from the brand. So that was a huge change for Lange, because you look at this and you understand their design philosophy.
Yes.
How are they going to adapt that with a sports watch?
Yes.
They brought this out in steel in 2019.
Yeah.
Also, the other
I do recall.
They also, what they did was they shifted the movement to be 4 hertz. All these other ones are more traditional, slow types of oscillation with the beat frequency. But this is the latest unveiling for 2022 in titanium, limited to 250 pieces. They were nice enough to send us the only press sample in the United States for this shoot.
Yes, this is 000 out of 250. I
Yes,
happened to see that on the back when I was
Kevin
eyeing
can't
it.
walk out of the door with it.
Yeah, so, well, actually, I think what should happen here is they should sell it to me. If there's one person on earth that should have this, it's got to be Mr. Wonderful. But it really is a spectacular piece. One thing to note about this, how light it is. Titanium is a remarkable material to make a watch out of. A classic look, a gorgeous bracelet, also titanium. So this is quite a statement piece, there's no question about it. They've kept true to the overall look of the brand. Very large numerals here. I mean, the dial is again, I keep saying how well these things are made, because I always scrutinize dial, and this is, the texturing is really phenomenal. You see the waves just near the bezel?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And also, I think with this case material, when titanium is done well, it's done well and you can recognize it, because the dial itself, how it fuses, and very similar to some other watches that we've seen from brands like that utilize tantalum.
Yeah.
We've looked at in the past. But this is, you have that almost like misted off hue of the gray, and it fuses into the dial.
Let's talk about the capital, aftermarket, what collectors should consider. Now, a piece like this, 0 out of 250 or whatever, if you got one out of the 250, and many collectors, and I'm one of them, are concerned about spending capital. Where does it fit? What's the capital appreciation? Because I consider my watch collection now an asset class. It's large enough now that I have to mark to market just for insurance. And I always ask myself, if I'm going to lay out, in this case, what are we saying, 58,000?
Yeah, mid-50s.
Yeah, anything over 50,000, I start to think about, wait a second, where does this fit in the continuum of asset appreciation? This one is going to appreciate. There's no question about it. There's no question. Because A, titanium, B, Lange, unique, only 250, probably a big back order of it, you want that. And probably where you want to see this start trading in the aftermarket. They don't have a lot of them yet, so you haven't seen the aftermarket support. But my guess is it trades up. That's what happens.
It's beautiful.
Can't say that for every watch, but you can definitely say it for this one.
The Odysseus, there was questions when it was unveiled, I think, among collectors of the brand, that they're just unsure about what to think of it, because I think there were people that asked for it.
I was one of those. I was critical, saying, well, wait a second, where are we going with this thing? Where do I fit in the continuum, and where can I use it? But, I've always considered when I start collecting a brand, you need a minimum of 3. You're not a collector till you have 3 pieces. I made that rule up, and I'm sticking by it.
It's a made-up rule.
It's a good rule, because you're supporting the Maison, and you're putting it in your collection for a reason. And you're going into different dials. The whole idea is you don't buy 3 of the same watches. You never would. You want 3 different dials. Now, I have the most extreme dial already, and it's where do I go next? I'm thinking of Odysseus. I'm trying to figure it out because I want to be able to put a red band on it for obvious reasons.
What pieces do you have now?
Just this.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
You just have one.
I'm not a collector yet. I only have 1 piece. That's my whole point, which is why here we are in the boutique, and I'm looking at these. I have Master Teddy here to give me all the information I need. It's good to have this guy walking around with you when you're looking at watches. He's like an encyclopedia of information. I'm a dial guy. A lot of this tech crap I don't care about, but I do care about collector, and I do care about capital, and I do care about dial. And that's a very beautiful piece.
It's stunning. I love how this extension of the case, it looks like it's just part of the case, and then boom, pushers activated. It's
No,
amazing.
it's fantastic, you know.
So that was a pretty complete lineup.
Yeah.
Lot to take in, but I mean, this is a brand that I am a huge proponent of. I don't think it's a matter of anything other than just the art of the craft here, and I don't think any brand represents it from a serial watch perspective better than Lange. I think they simply do it out of the park from a finishing standpoint.
You're right. And I would say very collectible because you have something unique. Again, what's different about a piece from this collection from the rest of watches out there, which matters. And a brand that's kind of moving up the feeding chain in the aftermarket now, stabilizing, getting better. Often it's very difficult for a brand to talk up one's particular launch because they want to make sure that all their children are supported.
Sure.
But let me tell you as a collector, there's nothing hotter right now than this across anything Lange has. This is a smoking hot piece. And they don't want to say that, but I'll say it, it's true. This is well sought after. If you're a titanium maniac, this is one of the watches you want.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is nice. Now I have to go to the cash register and buy this.
No, we discussed that. You can't leave here with that watch. That has to go back as a press example. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of reasons they should sell me this watch.
There's limitations of being Mr. Wonderful, even for him. I'm sorry to say.
I don't know what they are yet. Thank you, Teddy. That was fantastic.
All right, Kevin. Good to see you. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please let us know down in the comments. And Kevin, as always,
it was great. Your knowledge always amazes me. It's great to go watch shopping with you, Teddy. Look how much fun it is.
More to come in the future.
Take
See you
care.
guys.